channeling, oracular consciousness, listening to the wise inner voice, receiving divine guidance from our guides. All of this requires us to be able to discern and discern between the different voices, the different feelings and sensations that may arise within our being. And this requires us to have a reference point of our internal system, particularly have an experience, embodied experience of our parts, the parts that make up our mind. And through this, have an embodied experience of self energy. And I'm not just talking about being able to know when my higher self is coming in. I'm talking about the self, soul, that is ever present, the Atman, as we would say in the Vedic tradition, the ever present soul that is expressing this being in this moment, that is the localized consciousness. And soul or self is our true essence. It is our beingness. When we are in self or soul, we don't say, my soul is telling me. That may be actually a part. When we are embodied in soul or self, we simply are. So the I am is speaking from that place of self. And actually, when we're really embodied in self, we are simply being, and we're speaking for the parts of us. So I'm here, and I recognize in this moment that there's a part of me that is excited that I'm making this video. I'm really happy it's been on my list for a while, or the list of some of my parts. But I also have parts that are a little bit apprehensive about making this video because of fear of judgment. But I am just ever present, being with. And I, self, soul, doesn't really have any judgment or agenda or anything else. I'm just here ever present, speaking for my system, speaking for those parts of me. So when we have this level of understanding, when we're able to, generally speaking, unblend from our parts, and when we've had the benefit and privilege of time and embodied experience with this, we really know when we're speaking from a part or when there are parts of us around, and we discern, like we have that, we have the taste of like the frequency, the different feelings, sensations, frequencies of like the different parts of us. And then we also start to sharpen our internal perception. And so when we do receive guidance from a particular guide or oracular consciousness, we know that we're sitting back into our self energy. And so that knowing is in itself a technology of soul and self. That knowing is, in fact, that inner signal of the technology of self, knowing what is coming through, and that's coming from a particular guide or wherever it may be. And because we have the reference point of the parts in our system, that's like our internal check that we can do. So there's a message coming through. It's like there's a knowing that it's coming from a higher place, like from a guide. It's coming through the oracular consciousness, and I can do that check-in to just check into my system, and like it doesn't really feel like a part. I'm not thinking it. It's not thinking itself. It's not thinking me. And I am also not identifying with it in the way that I would identify with a part. Like we have these different checks and balances that we can do to know that we're in self. And when you are embodied with this level of internal awareness, you just know, like there isn't even any doubt or question. And if there is, then yeah, it's probably something's a big clue there. If there's doubt and questioning that comes in, it is, a place to pause and reflect and to check and see if maybe that wisdom was coming from a part. And actually, in the early days of like really, even those of us that are really like embodied in self, like we still have, like there is still times when messages and knowings come through, or they're here, or they're building. It's like, oh, I can feel it. And there's a part that comes up that's doubting it, or that's like questioning it. And often doing the inquiry with that part to see what's behind it, what is it afraid of, helps me to understand what that part's afraid of, what it's doubting in that message that's coming through. And even just that inquiry helps me to double check, like, was that actually a message, a knowing that was coming through, or was that a part? Maybe sometimes a part of us can detect that there are other parts in the system masquerading as self or higher self or guides, and like trying to feed information through. And maybe in those moments that I am blended with other parts. And so this can be like an inception thing, but normally if it goes into that place, or you're like, hold on, is it a part? Is it part of a part? There's lots of questions. It's likely that there's parts involved. When it's this like just knowing, just like there isn't even any doubt, that there isn't even a discussion, there isn't even like me going to my husband Rube and be like, this thing came through and like I'm not sure. It's just this is what came through, this is what it is, and it's just a direct transmission. And then also there's a receiving of that from the other, where it's like, oh, they feel it, they feel the frequency of it, they feel the clarity of it, and can help us with the checks and balances. So I wanted to share that because I spend a lot of time going into different organizations and different groups, being asked to share and teach about internal relating, and about the importance of having this kind of awareness when holding space for groups, when doing group work, when working with individuals, and doing particular types of psycho-spiritual therapeutic work. And I spend so much time, and of course, very, very, very much so with my students, teaching. This is very, very central and core to what we do, teaching how important it is for us to, as practitioners, to get intimate with our own internal system. So we have the benefit and privilege of time of embodied experience with our internal system, and so that we can discern at this level, because that really is the key to supporting our clients, our family, our community in the most clear and karma-free way. It is the way that we come into the deeper truth of the universe, of what is coming through. And so much of the culture that is being remembered, so much of the teachings coming through relies on it's not so much, all of it relies on receiving, remembering, restoring. So it's like the whole thing with AI. It's like, what are we programming it with? Like, what opinions, beliefs, information is it receiving? Is this stuff, ultimately it's all, coming from this central creative intelligence, but really, are we downloading, remembering, decoding what we believe to be our parts, thought, or is it coming from a place of higher intelligence and technology, from a place of higher guidance, from a place of higher self, from a place of self? I'll leave it there. So wonderful to connect with you, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.